This is the third generation of UK-built Nissan Qashqai, and it's confirmed that it's going to arrive in Australia later this year. There are going to be two engines on offer, including a 1.3 litre turbocharged petrol that will be the initial launch engine, and what's under this car's bonnet, the e-Power hybrid, an interesting combination of a series parallel hybrid powertrain that uses the battery and the electric motor to drive the front wheels the whole time, while a 1.5 litre turbo petrol engine runs the battery as a generator, sort of what we saw in a Chevrolet Volt, and it could be explained as a range extender style hybrid. But unfortunately, we're not going to be able to drive the Qashqai in today's video. Instead, what we're going to be doing is taking a look around this thing, see what it's like inside, and whether or not it moves the game on from the previous Qashqai. Now, if you're wondering exactly what this vehicle is, it sits in the small SUV category in Australia, slightly bigger than the smaller Duke, and below the Nissan X-Trail mid-size SUV with rivals like the Kia Seltos, Hyundai Kona, and Skoda Kamiq. So, without further ado, let's have a quick chat about the design of this car, which I think looks rather handsome. Now, of course, looks are subjective, so I'd love to hear your opinion down below, but I think at least in the small SUV segment, being bold is rewarded with strong sales, and you can see that with a lot of designs in this class, certainly vehicles like the Toyota CHR. The new Qashqai, I think, pulls it off really well. You've got Nissan's signature V-Motion grille, these C-shaped LED headlights that look really sharp and crisp, not to mention quite a nicely proportioned vehicle. It has grown in size, 20mm more wheelbase. Then pulling back here, we've got this lovely little Qashqai stamp in the paint there that I think is quite nice and a signature touch. This TI range-topping model gets 19-inch alloy wheels, shot in quality Continental Eco Contact 6 tyres as well, and of course it's finished off in magnetic blue. Now, there will be a bunch of colours on offer, but as I understand, the high-spec TI will come as standard with a contrast black roof that adds this car a little bit of extra style with that lower roofline look. But I'd love to hear your comments and thoughts on what you reckon of the Qashqai's looks down below, and if you haven't done so already, we'd also love it if you could hit subscribe. Okay, first up, before we actually get into the cabin, don't tell Nissan this, but I've actually started this car up and had to maneuver it around, and my goodness, is this thing refined when you start it up, because it's electric and it runs like an electric car, and it feels like that engine is really well damped and doesn't send any vibrations into the cabin. But anyway, we'll have more on that when we get our first drive of this car properly soon in the future. But what about this cabin? Well, Nissan's always done a pretty good job of high-end Qashqai cabins. The previous gen was actually a really nice place to be, with quality feeling materials and really nice seats, and a lot of those facets have carried over into this new car. It's just that the technology package is way more up to date in here. This TI gets a 12.3-inch touchscreen in the middle, which is really crisp and responsive. You get wireless Apple CarPlay, but only wired Android Auto. Hopefully that all fixed in a future software update. You also get this 12.3-inch digital driver's display, which is nice and crisp, has good graphics. Does remind me a little bit of the Mitsubishi Outlander's 12.3-inch digital driver's display, but there's definitely a Nissan spin to the graphics. It's also pretty fully featured. You've got satellite navigation in this car as well. It all works quite nicely. Speaking of that, Nissan hasn't kept all of the buttons and all of the functionalities inside the touchscreen. You've still got physical HVAC controls down here, which work really nicely. We've got heating for these lovely quilted leather appointed seats as well, with plenty of electric adjustment, including up and down lumbar support. That's great. They've also got 2-position memory, lovely leather appointed steering wheel in front of me here. And yeah, it all just feels quite nice and high quality. The storage seems to be pretty good as well. 2 decent cup holders here, a nice central bin with a flip-up storage area for your phone, and a deeper bin below that, and the door bins look promising. There's even 15-watt wireless charging here, which Nissan says should be able to charge the phone from 0 to 100% in between 1 to 2 hours, so roughly about the same as a USB-A, if not a little bit faster. Finally, we've got this interesting little gear selector here. It's another little departure from the norm, but it's good to see. Surrounded by piano black, but it is textured piano black, so hopefully it won't scratch as much in the future over years of use in this car. Again, we'll be able to see all that when we take it for a bit more of an extended drive. And complementing the decent technology package, Nissan's also fitted the Qashqai with a really great safety package across the range, including their ProPilot autonomous driving assist, which basically combines fairly advanced adaptive cruise control with stop and go, and lane keep assist technology, no more lane keep assist with brakes. You also get front AEB with pedestrian, cyclist and junction functionality, 360 camera in this TI, and reverse AEB. Finally, it's set off with a 10-speaker Bose stereo, which should sound pretty good, but we'll have to test that in the future, and a lovely full-length glass sunroof. The theme continues in the back of the Qashqai with pretty generous dimensions for a small SUV. I do have a decent amount of knee room and my head is just brushing the ceiling below this glass roof, but it's not too bad. I've also got a reasonable amount of toe room, and this lovely quilted leather continues in the back seat with a nice supportive and firm bench. Unfortunately, the under thigh support isn't great, but as a small SUV that is designed for mainly 2 people up the front and a couple of people in the back for short periods or a pinch, I think it's really fit for purpose. You do also have air vents and another pair of USB ports, which brings the total to 4, 2 USB-A and 2 USB-C. And finally, to top this thing off, we have a fold-down armrest, which is not something that you expect to find in all small SUVs. It's got 2 more cup holders there, and that's a nice touch to finish off the Qashqai's cabin. Around the rear, the fairly attractive styling continues. It's got these nice broad shoulders. This is the least pronounced of all of the new Nissan SUVs, but it still looks pretty sporty, and there's a real nice family lineage to all of these SUVs. Now, let's pop this boot here, which is power operated, as you'd expect. This is the range topping model, and we find 50 more litres of storage space than the previous generation Qashqai. Not a small amount more, so 480 litres. That is getting right up there with what you expect from a smaller mid-size SUV, meaning this vehicle in its extra size is now very practical. You also get the same little flip-up boot floor that you got on the previous generation. It feels very quality in terms of its fit and finish as well. Nice carpets, and then you've got 2 curry hooks and a 12-volt socket and a couple of storage cubbies off to the side. And finally, you've got a button up here so you can lock the vehicle and walk away without having to fondle through your pockets and lock it yourself. So I reckon that's a nice touch. So that's a brief overview of the 3rd generation Nissan Qashqai, set to launch here in Australia later this year. Now, if they can keep the price for a range-topping hybrid model like this under $45,000 drive away, I reckon this little SUV might be a really strong seller in Australia, because the enhanced technology package, the greater safety kit, and the redesigned exterior and interior really mean that this Qashqai is a step above the old car, and the fact that you might be able to get it with a hybrid powertrain is something that is fantastic in my book. But of course, I'd love to hear your thoughts and comments on the Qashqai down below. And while you're down there, we'd also love it if you could hit subscribe to the Chasing Cars channel if you haven't done so already. And as always, thank you for watching.